feel like early on, and social media was kind of just coming about when I was a young mom, but like you would look at another mom and you're like, how do you have three businesses, homeschool, do your hair, and your like date nights? Like it was so, that's what made me feel terrible because I'm like, do I just have a really low capacity or short fuse or whatever? And then you'd kind of dig under the story and go, they have two sets of grandparents helping them. They have a babysitter 3 days a week.
Yes.
So like I think we need to be really kind to ourselves and go like, hey, yes, that person looks like they're doing everything, but you don't know all the things that are happening behind the scenes to make that move, and just be like honest with yourself to say, hey, you could go to 55 field trips. I have a friend that's like, I hated field trips. She's like, I'll go to one a year. And I'm like, I loved field trips. So talk to me about that. Have you seen your clients struggle with that and comparison in social media? Do you think that's a piece of why we think we're supposed to be something that we're not?
Oh, 100%. And I think social media, I mean, we all know, but it is a highlight reel. And so we see when things are going well. No one's going to go on social media and talk when they're having the worst day of their life and they realize they're totally beyond their capacity. They're just not going to do that.
Yeah.
And I think every yes is also a no is something that I talk about a lot. And so we don't see the no's. We see the yeses on social media. We see the yes to the really exciting business thing or even the fun to like park play date with your kids. I mean, comparison can come
Yeah.
in all different forms. And I read a book recently that she talked about how she was having a day with her kids going to the park and she was kind of disheveled and, had a sweatshirt and no makeup and all the things. And she ran into someone who was an executive and was going to the White House to interview someone amazing. I don't remember who it was. And it was interesting because years down the line, they talked. And the stay-at-home mom at that time was comparing herself to this executive, wishing she was back in that season. And on the opposite side, that executive was comparing herself to the mom that looked like she was having
Mm,
so much fun with her little boy going to the park. And that really hit me because it really, I think no matter where you are at, and Courtney, I don't know how many of your listeners have a business or don't have a business, but however
yeah.
you're listening to it, we will compare something.
Yeah.
And just realizing that every yes is also a no, we don't know the no's. I ask every guest that comes on my podcast, what is something that you're neglecting for the sake of balance? Because I want to normalize this more, to see the childcare behind the scenes. That's why I brought that up, because my reality looks different now than it did when I was working just nap times and evenings. Doesn't mean one
Yeah.
is better or not. They're just different. And I am able to hold things differently in each season. And so I think acknowledging to yourself that that is true and like really starting to
Yeah.
see that everyone has different priorities and you need to live in your priorities.
Yeah.
The Bible
Yeah.
also talks about limitations being a blessing. There's a verse
Yeah.
in Proverbs that says, the boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. That is another
Mm,
thing I come back to a lot because we see boundaries often as limiting and like, we can't do XYZ that we want to do. But the Lord actually has given us those boundaries. And I talk about this a lot with rest as well. It is a gift for us too. And the Lord has
yeah.
called each of us differently in this season of our life, and embracing those boundary lines may not be forever. But for now, it actually is a gift to keep you within what is within those boundary lines, to keep your focus there.
Yeah. So good. I think moms that have asked me before have always wanted an answer. They want like me to prescribe, work this many hours, do this, and I'm like, my answer to the balance question has always been it's personal and it's seasonal. Just
Hmm.
what you said, it's so specific to you, how many kids you have, your experience, your job. And then it is so seasonal. I mean, I've probably had 9 lives over the course where there was a 3-year break. I turned everything off. And
Hmm.
served locally and supported my husband in that way and my kids. And then there's been seasons where I've had everything on high. And it's just fun to kind of, like, I would say, journey with the Lord on that and just know, like, if he's turning something off or there is that boundary, that he's going to bless that decision. And I've seen it over and over again. I was coming out of a season of like that 3 years and just felt like God was saying, like, okay, go back to work, get back into parenting. And I was like, well, Lord, what? Like, I like to do all kinds of things. What do you want me to do? And it was like 2 weeks later, I think, that Christian Parenting called and said, we have our number one podcast. The host left or is leaving in 30 days and we want you to take it over. And it was such a reminder that like in due time, he's going to be like, here's the next thing. And
Yeah.
not to try to get too far ahead of him because we don't know what each season is bringing.